Everybody here, is everybody prepared to let's get started? Everybody good? All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Item number 2, and basically the primary item we're here tonight is discussion of the county administrator position and the hiring process. Probably the latter is more of what we're here for, is the hiring process. So it seems that the team has actually put together for us a notebook with job descriptions from the South Carolina Association of Counties, and had a chance to look through them all. I don't know whether everybody else has had a chance to look through them and read through them. But tonight, basically, I guess our goal is to try to put together a job description, qualifications, duties, whatever, however we want to write ours. It's strictly up to us at this point. So with that being said, I'm going to open it up for comments and how we all want to let's proceed with this part of it.
Looking through most of them, they basically saying the same, almost the same thing, but one thing that I did notice that wasn't present was the fact that none of these contained anything saying years of experience as far as economic development.
Okay.
My only comment in reviewing them was they seemed so overbroad that it just seemed almost difficult to judge a true job description from it.
Mr. Chairman, I was actually thinking about, these are great straw men or examples of job descriptions, and I think we can probably assemble our job description and pick and choose a little bit from all these and probably be good. I was thinking more about the process outside just the job description, like what process do we want to use in posting the job? And when you spoke with the Association of Counties, what did they tell you about how they could help us as far as actually posting whatever we choose as it being our job description? How do we go from there?
Well, they have some outlets that can assist us somewhat, but they basically wanted us to get what we wanted, and then we would actually post it. One of the things that we need to determine tonight, one obviously is his job description, and the other one of the things that's really key and relevant is posted until filled, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, what time window we're looking at for as trying to put it out there, whether we want to market it Southeast, nationally, internationally. I mean, it's a multitude of things that can, that we can, once we just focus in on what we want in the job description, then we can target how we want to get it out and where we want it to get out to. I mean, we've kind of kept it broad because I wanted this meeting to happen first before we narrowed too far, because I mean, depending on how we decide tonight, how we want to go forward with our searches, how broad we'll make it. Does that make sense?
Have we looked as far as trying to find an outside agency?
Well, I guess that's kind of what he's talking about right now. Again, we just need to determine how far out broad we want to go with it. I think we go as broad as we can, and then we narrow it down from there. That's kind of my personal thought. But, again, I'm just one of 7 here in the thought process.
I know there are companies that do the outreach, and one of them I found was called Indeed.
Yeah.
I don't know what all they do or how much they charge.
But that's one you can almost go on and post yourself, and again, I don't
Is
know
that what it is?
Yeah, we could do that ourselves, and they every time somebody looks at your job posting, they charge you a fee. And
From
so,
the Indeed?
yes, and we tried that with law enforcement.
Didn't work. I just saw that
It's
and,
brutally expensive, and they don't really narrow the criteria for you, and so, I'm getting
We're gonna have all kinds.
the-
We're gonna have to weed through all of anyone would apply, and then it may take more time to weed through those that probably don't have as much qualification against those that do.
Using the term from what been told by one person on that particular website, it's about like the car person who the tire kicker. You get people that can't even afford, can't even apply for it, but they're still gonna be hitting on your website and.
Yes.
what are some kind of professional sites that,
A lot of
other than this?
I don't know the organization names, but a lot of counties and school districts have chosen to use private corporations to do some screening and stuff for them. I know Union County did that. A friend of mine just got that job as the school district superintendent over there, and they used a private organization. But, I mean, obviously, if they're gonna take your applications and screen your applicants and make recommendations, that's a lot more intel than a wide open website to let you kick in information. So there's gonna be a significant fee involved with that.
Yeah, if you hire a private entity, it's very expensive.
It is.
You're looking at over $100,000.
Easy.
For
Oh, my
a
goodness.
certified headhunter.
Yes.
Me personally, I mean, I sometimes think we just start through the South Carolina Association of Counties and maybe post it on our own county website and let's see where it goes from there. If we don't get what we want from there, then we may have to target something bigger, better, and unfortunately more expensive.
Yeah, those three things, the Association of Counties, Municipal Association.
I mean, we can
And
put it
our
on
county
our
web.
Newberry County website. I mean, word spreads fast out there.
Absolutely.
There are
And
people.
I don't know how you do the job service now, but you used to could put it on job service, but have you used job service in a long time?
We also have, I knew before, we posted with the municipal association.
Yeah,
Other outlet,
Mhm.
go along with SCAC, maybe they may go hand in hand or might attract the same type of people looking for these kind of jobs. That might be one.
I think that's probably a good approach initially. And I certainly think we shouldn't limit our population or pool of applicants to only people who are administrators or assistant administrators. One of the things that I think is very important, when I look at even all of these job descriptions, and I look at what we really currently have, it's not like we're building a county government. We've got a county government in place. We've got a law enforcement agency in place, emergency services agency in place, and all those are directed by, right now, managers. We've got all of our utilities. Everything is, all we need is someone to come in and manage what's already in place. And while I think experience in government
It's a plus,
may be
not
helpful,
necessary.
but I don't think it's necessary. I think management experience and managing budgets, creating and managing budgets and managing personnel are two of the criteria that are most important versus, bringing someone in that has that has been an administrator for another county that comes in and tries to run Newberry County like they ran the previous county. And that may not be a fit for Newberry. So I'm just saying that I think when we throw our net out, our net does not need to limit itself to county government experience, but I think we need management experience in creating budgets and administering budgets. So whatever selection process we use or when I say selection, I guess whatever marketing we use to get out there to let our needs be known, that we don't limit ourselves to experience in county government. Let's limit ourselves to experience in management.
I concur. I think we need somebody that's good in budget management, some experience in strategic planning. I don't think we've done a whole lot, not sure, but I don't know how much strategic planning we've done to set goals, measurable goals, in the past, but I think we need somebody to set measurable goals that can be attainable. And maybe even somebody that's had some grant writing experience, would be a plus. So I'm also of the opinion that, previous county administrator might not be what we need, but more of a business type person.
If they don't know local government, though, it takes a long time to learn all the different facets that come in through local government.
It would be a plus to have that, to know, to be an administrator, but not necessarily have to have been an administrator.
Because you have all these different funds coming from different entities through government and how they're divided up. And you got to understand those income streams.
They've got to have good budget management, I agree with that.
And
Over the
the
different
nice thing,
departments.
I'll go kind of back to what I'd said earlier, Mary. We've already got an auditor in place and a staff for the auditors. We've got a treasurer in place and the staff for the treasurer's office. We got a clerk of court in place and the staff for the clerk of court. We got a sheriff in place and the staff of the sheriff. We've got all these agencies already in place, and including our own staff that manages the budget. So what we need is somebody to manage what's in place. Now, it would certainly be helpful to have either someone who has experience in regulation or quasi-government or government. I'm just asking, let's not exclude that
We're not gonna be
population.
blind to them, no.
Yeah.
We're gonna look at all. of what we have.
Absolutely. I just don't want to limit ourselves to someone who's got county government only experience.
Well, they also need to have communication skills
Oh,
as well.
yeah,
If
absolutely.
they can communicate with everybody that's in that circle,
Definite people skills are necessary.
right.
Gotta have some people skills, and I'm not contradicting, but going along with and saying that management in the private sector and management in the government sector are two entirely different
They are
monsters for lots of reasons. Whether we like it or not, that's the reality. And so I think we have to balance a little of that. Even if you brought somebody from the private sector, they would have to understand that this is its own monster for tons of reasons.
And the selection, final selection.
Absolutely.
I can't disagree with you. On the other hand, there are a lot of quasi-government, there are a lot of people in private business that aren't manufacturing, but that are in private regulated businesses.
Sure.
That are very comfortable and deal with regulations, government regulations on a daily basis.
Right.
And know how to deal with that and understand those.
Again, I wasn't contradicting you, and so I don't take that as the same
I
way,
just
but-
don't, I just want to make sure we're not out there limiting our population.
I don't think you should ever say only somebody who's been a county administrator should be the person we look. I would never want that as an exclusive criteria. But managing government is different than I think almost everybody at this table's been in both, and there's a world of difference
There is a world, I've been in the private sector.
between private sector and government management.
And I've been in government, and the government is totally different,
There's a whole different set of rules.
sure enough.
And my other thing is, with all that we already have going on, you really can't have nobody step in and say,
Oh,
who's gonna learn on the job? We actually need somebody that has some type of experience.
Clearly, experience is important.
absolutely. I think you're looking at a 3 to 5 year ramp-up period to get caught up to where we are right now.
Right.
It takes one of the girls in the assessor's office, a new hire, 3 years to learn codes and how to do, just to help the public.
And that's good that we don't have to replace them.
But I'm
And-
just saying, and
Yeah.
that's just a little portion of the big picture.
And my contention is you got a clerk that's got a 5-page job description, and you're gonna, the longest one of these is a page and a half. That concerns me, that high of a pay scale would have a page and a half job description. And so I think I don't know that there's a job description in here that I would go, oh, yeah, that's perfect for what we're looking for. I don't wanna be so specific that you put somebody in a hole that they can't get out of, but at the same time, I think we have to have some clear expectations. Otherwise, any evaluation is already devalued because you don't really have a standard to hold them by.
Now, the
I think-
code, the codes that reflect this job is 4-9-620 through 660 of the South Carolina laws. And elsewhere, sometimes you find other portions of the law. That's gonna have to go in there that they abide by those. And the home rule, they have to learn about the home rule, which is a pain, as it's it's kind of like the history of taxation and Act 388 and all the different things that govern what they can do with levies and how much they can go up and reassessments and what you can do and can't do.
And the problem with home rule is it's not codified, and so it's very difficult to research.
Well, home rules actually not a very extensive document, and it's not very difficult to understand.
I think because it's not codified, it becomes very difficult to interpret. Understanding it and interpreting it becomes very different.
So, Mr. Chairman, are we looking for, what our next step is as far as, tonight? Are we
Yes.
going to define the job description, or are we going to define the process that we're gonna use to post this job, or both?
I think tonight I'd like to get the job description. I'd like to get as many ideas on how we're gonna post, maybe what steps we want to use first. And if we don't find anybody within that tier, then we move to something that's maybe more costly, if that makes sense. I mean, I don't want to, going back to what I heard the chairman of Lexington County said recently when they were looking at theirs, they didn't want to be a knee-jerk decision, spend 6 weeks getting somebody and spending 6 years trying to get rid of the problem they got, so.
You're right.
And I don't mean that derogatory toward anybody who might be looking at our video tonight and saying, I want that job, but we need to make sure we take the time to get the right person for the job, if it's any way possible. And again, the least tax dollars we have to spend to try to do that search, if we can find somebody that's adequate, well, I won't say adequate, somebody that meets our expectation and meets our needs. I've heard I was just sitting here listening, I was not commenting a whole lot. I heard Todd say something about, do we don't want to pigeonhole? I'll be honest with you, on the job description itself, I'd like to keep it as broad as we can so we can get potentially as many applicants. Once we kind of get to the point where we have gotten somebody, then we may want to write an evaluation description so that we can evaluate them on the things we want to evaluate them on. And probably even interview questions, because once we get that person in here, the questions we ask them are going to be more pertinent to what I've heard people say. What is your skill set with economic development? What is your budgetary, what is your grant writing skills? All those kinds of things that we would have a rubric that we could ask all of them pretty much the same thing, and then judge them based on their previous experiences. And then that be our tool for making our final decision on who we hire and probably actually designing. Personally, I was looking over all of these pretty extensively. Most of them start off with kind of writing a history of their county and what's going on within their county.
That too.
I think in our job posting, we need to pump up Newberry County. It doesn't take much right now to pump up Newberry County. Where we are, I think everybody sitting here can agree, we got a lot to be proud of. We got a lot to offer somebody coming to us. We're not number 45 or 46 in county government right now, and we're on the bottom. If you look, we're in the middle with taxes. But far as what our county has done and where we are with our county, with our reserve fund, with our economic development growth, with a lot of the practices that are already in place, I say we're a very attractive county to want to come to. And looking at the job descriptions, I really kind of like the Beaufort one.
That's what I'm looking
It doesn't pigeonhole you into anything. A strong commitment to creative problem solving through teamwork and professionalism, outstanding supervisory and administrative skills, highly developed interpersonal, oral, and written communication skills, ability to develop policies and procedures that evolve within with the organization. I mean, that's so broad, but yet it's so definitive of what you're kind of looking for. A demonstrated record of leadership and comprehensive knowledge. Now, this may deviate a little bit from what you were saying earlier, but county city management. But you can always put that as preferred. It doesn't have to be mandated. The word preferred could be in there.
Right.
Also comes down here, every single one of them that I've looked at, these and others, and I actually went back to the National Association of Counties and looked at some stuff, and most all of them have this: a bachelor's degree in public administration, public policy, business or related fields, a master's degree in public or business administration. That is in about any of them, but you got public administration in here. You also got public and business administration, which does open the door up for what you were talking about, Les, somebody outside of government, you know, that, and then also you got there, have experience leading large organization through a natural disaster. Well, I don't know whether that's really as important to us, but still, y'all, we've got tornadoes, we have
We
had
have
stuff.
meetings all the time. We had to be planned.
But I think when you go to talking about how you relate to FEMA and all the odd and stuff that still is required within county government, our lake, et cetera. I mean, you got FEMA regulations on Greenwood, you got FEMA regulations on Murray, you got FEMA regulations with that 100-year flood that we recently had.
BC Summer,
Yeah, VC Summer is a huge one, absolutely.
we're the backup
That one
site
all
for
the
them.
time.
That's
We have
right.
to be planned.
But as far as just a general description, I like the core of that one better than I do these, say, skill development and short-term and learn-time, skill in establishing, prioritizing, organizing work. I mean, it's just, that one is broad enough that it covers,
And the only thing I would say to that is that is indicated as a job summary, not a job description, and there's a world of difference in
Yes.
those two things in terminology. So if you're just doing a job summary, I'm great with it. And then for the other thing that they taught us in all of these pay studies that we went through is if you want to expand on that other, relative county or planning, you could say, or equivalent experience, and put the burden on them to demonstrate how they have equivalent type training to be able to accomplish that task. So, but I know that sounds like splitting hairs, but the truth is there's a world of difference in county government between a job summary and a job description. And so if we're just at a job summary, yes, I agree.
oh, I was just thinking a job summary, put that out there, and then once
Get
we
us
get
going.
closer, we then narrow down what the job description looks like.
Yes.
And depending on the candidate, we may develop a job description that's maybe different for one than another. I mean, if you see what I'm saying, it could be,
You could, although there's an inherent danger with that.
yes. Yeah.
Because the next guy might not have the next person may not have the same skills as that person, and now you gotta rewrite a job description.
Yeah, you need to have one job
Yes,
description. You
so
don't need to
there is
choose
an
one.
inherent danger with
No,
it.
based
but I'm
on-
talking about like, going back to what like Les was talking about, if we get somebody from the business sector, it may have a little bit different twist on the
Absolutely.
job description than it would be if.
Absolutely.
I just think we need to leave ourselves open to that kind of applicant.
Well, and I think this one,
did.
I think that one does a pretty good job of it. Now, one thing, y'all, as bizarre as our world has turned, I still say one of the key things too, they gotta pass a background check, drug screenings, et cetera.
Yeah, I looked at Dylan, and that was one at the bottom of the first page, in that paragraph. That needs to be clear that you gotta possess a driver's license, you gotta have a drug test. You know, all those things are minimal right out of the box. If you can't complete a credit check, background check, drug test, and driver's license, you don't need to apply here.
If you can't qualify to be a deputy sheriff, you sure
So
shouldn't qualify to be a
that
county
ought to be
administrator.
a minimal requirement, no.
I mean, I think that's clear. I think we could almost take the verbiage straight from theirs.
Yeah,
Add a few things to it.
the other thing that I would suggest is that we have some form where multiple members of council call references. We shouldn't just take, because they put it in a resume, doesn't make it true. And so we need to, not just one council member say I called them, but, cause sometimes you hear what you wanna hear. I don't mean to say that any other way than it is you hear what you wanna hear. So I think more than one council member ought to call every reference and talk to them, including past employers, to hear what they say about that person. That may be way down the road, but I
I'll take
think
that
we owe
one
it to
step
ourselves.
farther. I think you even need to call people that they didn't use on their reference.
Yes, yes, if we can find out they work somewhere else, I think we need to call and say, why, what is the situation?
Yeah, I think that's a process after you've got applicants.
No question, no question.
That, you
That's
know,
what I said, that may be
that's-
farther down the road, but,
That may be even when you got it narrowed down to about 5.
yes. No, I wouldn't do it for everyone. When you
No,
get
you
your
get-
final group that you're
Yeah.
considering, I think we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to this county to call every reference, because resumes are nothing but a piece of paper, so you can put on it whatever you wanna put on it, and so you gotta check that out.
Mr. Chairman, I do like I like the Beaufort one as well. Pretty much just add a few things, changing the forefront and adding that little bit to the bottom, and I think it's pretty good overall.
I just like that part, the successful candidate will have the following qualification and experiences.
Absolutely.
What I'd probably like to do is, are you gonna be doing this, Catherine, kind of putting it together? I'd almost like for us to take that particular one. Again, y'all tell me if you differently.
Yeah, I agree.
Take that particular one, change it to where it's worded for us, I guess you would say, which I don't think in that part of it, there's really nothing. I think that one covers everything that we've talked about tonight, because it says a master's in public or business administration from an accredited college. So does that wording suit you, Mr. Hipp, from the standpoint of opening it up to business-minded people also?
Sure, as long as we've got, I think a bachelor's is a minimum, that we need to stick with a minimum, and then maybe a master's is preferred. Certainly, master's in public business administration would be preferred, but as it says, it's not
But not
required. So
required.
I think that's where I think we need to draw a minimum line
Absolutely.
on a bachelor's degree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I think, going back to what you said, I think other than taking out the part for, applications will be accepted until the position is filled and may be obtained at the Dillon County, I think we could take that bottom paragraph and that one, put it on ours.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Are you following me okay, Catherine?
Yes, we already have the language about the driver's license, you must pass the background check and those things, so that will be on there regardless. It's always on my posting,
It is.
so, yeah, I'll definitely make.
The other thing that's on there that we have to comply with is EEOC and all that, which is already on your postings.
Yes, it is.
I've seen your work, you do impeccable work, and so we're amazed by you.
And I also think that down there where it says, that we're an equal opportunity employer, that needs to be in there.
That's
as well.
part
That's
of
right,
it.
your EEOC, yes, that's what I was talking about. The only other thing I disagree with this is opening to fill. My personal opinion is you put a closing date on it. If you don't get satisfied candidates, then you can reopen it, but I don't like opening to fill.
I agree with that 100%. You gotta
You
close the
yeah,
door,
If you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it.
and
Put in
then
for it.
after that, if you don't have enough candidates, then you open the
Kick it
door
right
again.
back open again and say, look again.
Well, that's why I said initially that I was planting that seed 30, 60, or 90 days. I don't know which one of those.
30 days is plenty.
You think 30's
I
plenty?
do.
If you really want it, you apply.
That's right.
Do we,
Cause if you go 60 or 90, they go, I got plenty of time, and they never get back around to it. If you go 30 days, they gotta get on the stick and get it done.
My only thing about that is how quick will,
30 days from the date of posting would be my recommendation.
yeah.
So if she doesn't post it
Sometimes
until
it may be a
April
week.
10th, then it would be May 10th or whatever. So it would go from the date she actually put it out, in my opinion. Now, I can't tell y'all what to do, but
I
that's just.
think that's ample time.
Is that typically what you do, 30, 45? What do you normally do?
No, it really depends on the department, just as you all, obviously, make the decision. Some leave it open until filled, some if there are positions that are gonna bring a lot of applicants in, a lot of our clerical positions,
Oh,
do
yeah.
bring a lot of applicants.
If-
This one, I could imagine it's going to bring a number of
Yes.
applicants in. But again, it's however many you decide you've got to wade through quite a bit of them to determine the applicants you want to continue investigating.
And I would just say, last thing, and I'll shut up, is my personal opinion is it says a lot about your character when you choose to apply on time.
It does, but I think we have to consider how we're going to post this too.
Right.
That was exactly.
Because if we post it in the right way, maybe 30 days is a good window. If we, depending on how we post it, maybe 60 days is a more realistic window. So I think we need to figure out how we're gonna post this before we
Give
put a
a
timeline on it.
Right.
And that was why I was kind of saying, well, Todd, not arguing the 30, but I think the county news has just gone out. And I think it's at least every 30
did
days.
just go
So
out.
You probably need to put it 60-day one just so that it has a chance to get into that magazine and
I'll
reach
buy
that
that.
venue of people. I mean,
I just like a fixed date on
I
it so that.
I agree with you, buddy, because actually that magazine just came out.
Yes.
And one of the items in the magazine that has a date on it was already expired whenever we got the magazine.
and I think they do it like June, July, August, September. I think it's a 2-month thing. So if we don't hit the 60-day thing, it won't even be any need us posting in there in the county news because it won't make it till, as Les said, where it's already been, the job posting has already expired.
I'm not gonna argue for 30 days in the scheme of something this important, but I do think we need to have
Set a date on
a
it.
deadline and just say, I don't think open until field meets
No.
what we expect.
I'm gonna ask Catherine something out loud. Y'all can argue with me or tell me. Call South Carolina Association of Counties and see when their next prescription or a subscription thing will go out and kind of coordinate it within 10 days of it going out. Does that make sense?
At least allow, I would say maybe 15 days from the time it goes out for people to get it, have an opportunity to read it, put together a resume, and apply.
Yeah.
So certainly, at least 15 days after it hits the people's mailbox.
So we really won't be having a timeline on it right now until she finds out and coordinates with the next copy of that magazine going out.
And I can tell you that kind of like most everything, it's really a small circle of people who would be interested in something like this. And word will travel fast as well, because I've already
Absolutely.
gotten calls from all across the state about the superintendent's job. So, can you help me? I don't know nobody.
And even if we have to buy a section, a quarter of a page or a half page in that magazine, it may be as well served, instead of just having a little blurb, to have a little half page in there if it doesn't cost us too much.
Which is a good point, buddy. I think we don't necessarily limit it, again, getting back to an earlier point, we don't need to limit ourselves to the Association of Counties. There's a SC Biz magazine that's put out by the
Skibo.
Department of Commerce.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's an excellent, because SC Biz not only hits the public sector, it hits part of the management in the private sector. So,
The municipal thing has a similar one to the county. I think we put
Absolutely, yeah.
something in there.
so we need to use all those media to get this word out.
And again, on our own personal website, on our Newberry County website, obviously.
Catherine, can you get to SC Biz and check that as well, that whenever it goes out?
Mr. Chairman, it's real nice to see y'all working together on this opportunity. Congratulations to all of you.
Now, are we looking for this to go internationally as well?
Yeah, I don't know that it's probably any need in that, but obviously, anything that's out there on the World Wide Web can go international.
Absolutely.
But I guess, look at all those mediums and find out when their publication is, the next one going out, and then, again, whether it be 15 days or 30 days after, I kind of agree with the lady from Lexington. We don't want to rush our decision.
No.
We want to get the best that we can. I think it's been made reference to that we got good department heads, et cetera, already in place. We got good backup with deputy administrator. I think we are fine floating until we find the right person.
No question.
Does that kind of culminate everything that everybody was kind of wanting, thinking, or otherwise? And what I'm guessing it would do is tell Catherine, if you don't mind kind of putting that together,
I'll get this together.
send it out to every council member, y'all proof it, and instead of having another meeting, just directly send it back, or we can respond in a group, so each one of us can see what each other's thinking. If it's so different in opinions, and we need to call another meeting, we'll call another meeting, but, in fact, we can just, our next council meeting is
Next Wednesday.
next Wednesday. Hope, can you have something out where we can have a little chance to just proof over it? Taylor, we could just put on the next council meeting, y'all okay with that? Just reviewing what's been put together and taking a vote on sending it out?
You just want a discussion item?
Just a discussion item.
Discussion item. Now, do we already have a write-up about Newberry County somewhere?
That would be good if I could.
Somebody's probably got one somewhere.
I'll look and see.
Check with Rick. I bet you he's got some promotional stuff he's
absolutely.
used for economic development that probably summarizes Newberry County pretty darn good.
There's some stuff on the website that would kind of
I think you can
blow
find
that
some.
away.
Population of,
So, and how many lakes we have.
Yeah.
What's her
And
name?
in fact,
She probably got some stuff.
yeah, that's
Central
true.
Mid-
The
I mean,
Chamber of
not
Commerce
Central
may have
Midlands,
something.
The Central Alliance also has some descriptive information about Newberry County that you
Mm-hmm. And if I can help you make
probably
contact with any of those people, just let me know.
Mr. Chairman, if I have that in advance, I'll send my comments in advance since I'll be absent next Wednesday on the meeting.
Okay, okay.
But I'll let you know if I have any comments, concerns.
Well, I was gonna say, if it's emailed out to us, everybody can comment to it. Now, with that being said, is everybody kinda happy with where we are and what direction we are looking?
The only thing I would say, and I don't think we should tackle this tonight, but perhaps at our next meeting is, between our next meeting and the next meeting after that, is we will be absent a county administrator. And so I think we need to have some conversations about how we're gonna dictate the day-to-day operations of
Yes.
the county will
Who is
run.
actually gonna be the head,
Yeah.
held accountable?
Absolutely. Somebody's gotta be in charge at the end of the day, and so I think maybe by our next meeting, we need to have those conversations. Again, I'm not asking for it tonight, cause that's not the intent of the meeting, that's not what we advertise it is, but I do think we need to have that on our next agenda.
And we probably may want to go into executive session
I
to
don't think
discuss
there's no
that,
problem.
because
Yeah.
do we need to discuss strengths, weaknesses, or people just saying, here's what I think, we don't need to get that too much in a,
No, sir. No, sir.
um,
You can be a great person, but not be ready to lead the county.
well, I've gotten calls recently, and I won't say makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but it makes me a little bit uncomfortable. With all the, here I'm doing with the mask thing, but with all the stuff opening back up more and more and more, a lot of our offices and all are still being very shut down. And they're wanting us to start opening our buildings more, et cetera. I don't want to get into making that decision right now myself personally, but that's kind of stuff that I'm hearing, there are more and more immunizations, there are more and more, the numbers are going down. Why are we still having so many restrictions on our,
The governor sent the state employees back.
yes. And I'm not so sure that we don't need to possibly start looking at that, but now who really makes that call at this point?
Well, I think, to Todd's comments and to your comments, as a personnel, we could go into executive session as a personnel issue to determine whether or not we have someone within county government currently that we want to put into an interim administrator position. And I think we need to be able to discuss that, and that may be something we come out of with asking, and if we ask somebody to step into a interim position, then we need to also be willing to compensate them for those duties while they're in that interim position.
Absolutely.
And we don't need to exclude them from application for the permanent position.
Absolutely.
But we definitely need a single point of accountability. And whether or not that single point is the chairman of county council, that could be it.
We'll put it
Or
that way. If
whether or
that
not-
comes that way, there ain't no additional compensation. Buddy ain't taking no money to do this, but,
Well, then you may have gotten yourself the job because you sound like the cheapest candidate.
I might be
So
cheap.
anyway,
I've
I'm just,
given some thought to that too, and whether we have an interim or not, we may have a person that steps in and takes, I'll say, problems or circumstances that happen. And if it's a certain level that they don't really need to make that decision about, that maybe we had a committee of the council that worked problems out.
and the other thing is the interim may not be within the current county government structure. We may have someone who's retired that's in our community or whatever that has shown through their experience that they could step in an interim role and at least be a manager of the different departments until we get an administrator.
Keep the ship right.
So again, we don't want to limit ourselves in the population we select from, but I think that's something we need to talk about at our next meeting.
Absolutely. We gotta put somebody in charge.
On a complete and sincere note, I mean, I'll do anything I can to facilitate and help. It's in the role of the chairman to do what we can do to make this ship flow as smoothly as possible. And seriously, I am not going to even think about additional salary, so that's just off the table. But
I think we got some good capable.
we got
people.
some people, I think, within, but I think they also may have the desire to want to call and be validated on what they're
That's
thinking.
why I meant
Yeah.
a team of us, a couple people on a committee.
But we will get to that step, I think, as you said, not tonight. Tonight's intent was, I think, what we've already accomplished. Catherine, you got enough guidance on where to go to get something out. So I'll move, I don't think there's any need for an executive session.
No.
Now, I'll just go through the comments with council members. I think we've all had opportunity to make a lot of comments, but just in case, Nick,
I have no further comments. I appreciate it.
Les,
None.
Mary?
The only other thing is, we're gonna do this first, and then we're gonna work on the job description. Is that correct?
We will have a more definitive job description later on. Right now, we're just looking for
Just
something to
work out,
get people
getting it
to,
out.
get applicants in, and we don't want to be too definitive with it to where we would limit or narrow this pool of people
I
who'd be
just
willing to apply.
recommend that we start on that as soon as we can get this out, because it's gonna take a little bit of time to get,
Yeah, and if everybody wants to start just looking at what we got here and jotting down bullets of what you like, highlight them, whatever, I mean, this is a good starting point. Todd,
I don't have anything.
Mr. Scurry, Mr. Reader?
My only other thing, are we planning on doing anything for the county administrator's retirement?
That has not been discussed. I mean, we can talk about that too at some point. I mean, I think the least we can do is kind of, again, read into what, at the next council meeting, which will be his last council meeting, read into what, a menu of things that he has done and accomplished for our county. Probably would be nice to have some kind of event, but guess what? COVID still has enough restrictions. Trying to get a large group of people together is not really in the best interest of your county.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think, regardless of my position on some recent issues regarding that, I want to go on record as saying, I think Mr. Adams has done a lot of really good things for this county. And I think as a form of a resolution, we should recognize the accomplishments he's made. As you've indicated, list those accomplishments.
and do a
And
resolution.
do a resolution honoring him for the years of service he's provided to this council. I think we need to give him a, whether it's a plaque or some form to carry away with appreciation of the Newberry County. I would like that, and so that's my thought on it.
Well, he's done a lot of good for this county, and again, I think that there's no doubt from the time he came on board to where we are now, we're a lot better county than what we ever
I
have been.
can attest to every bit of that, because I was hired right after that.
Yeah, we've come a long way.
come a long way.
So Taylor, you got that? You can talk with Jay about getting a resolution together, please, and I guess do that expeditiously. I really don't have any comments other than, folks, I appreciate everybody coming together tonight to kind of, I won't say bail me out, but help me out with trying to make sure we're all comfortable with something going out or what we're gonna put out. I look forward to, Ms. Cook's stuff coming out. And Catherine, again, thanks for you putting together and kind of organizing this document, getting it out, and then we'll, look at the venues in which we're gonna put it out in. I think we've got leadership and guidance from where you wanna be looking and see what you can find for us. With that being said, I don't see anybody here from the public unless, Andrew, you wanna speak or anything? All right, do a motion to adjourn, second. We're out of here, folks. Thank y'all so much.
That was